Hi, this video is on progressed sun in Virgo and in the 6th house and/or. So if you're looking for an explanation on what progressed sun is in general, I will leave a link in the description box below to a video that tells you exactly what that means. And if you're just looking for the 6th house, I'll leave a timestamp so you can skip right over the Virgo part. So the areas of the body that are affected by a Virgo progression are generally the small intestines area. It's the area that has to do with digestion. Also, the pancreas is ruled by Virgo, so that's also an area that will be emphasized during this progression. So there's only a few people that will experience this. Well, a few sun signs, I should say. Leos will experience this progression. So it depends on when in the Leo season you were born as to when your sun will progress into Virgo. Cancers will eventually go into a Virgo progression. They have to get through their 30-year Leo progression first. Geminis will go in later in life. So depending on when in the season you were born, you'll go in your 60s, 70s, or your 80s. And occasionally Tauruses will make it to their Virgo progression, but you have to have been born late in the Taurus season, so within the last 10 days, and you have to live to be in your 90s. When you go from the Leo energy to the Virgo energy, there tends to be a humbling experience. What happens is you suddenly discover that you've become obsolete. You had a distorted view of your self-importance, your value, your worth, your skill set. And at this point, you have to first off accept it and then get to work to improve your skill set. So don't forget that this is a 30-year progression. So when you first get into it, the first few years of it may be you just taking stock of your skills. Solar progression predominantly has to do with our career. Virgo itself is a sign that has to be of service all the time, and it's a very pragmatic sign, so practice makes perfect when it comes to Virgo. Another shift you'll see when you go from Leo to Virgo is that you tend to be much less stubborn. Leo is a fixed sign, so there's a lot of pride involved in that, a lot of inability to go with the flow. When you go into Virgo, you become ultra adaptable, and this is a mutable sign, so it's flexibility. So at this point, like I said, once you get over that hurdle of that humbling experience that can be quite disillusioning, there is a sense of, I just got to get to work. I just got to make the changes and adapt. Now, I do want to take a moment to explain the sense of what Virgo means in a philosophic way in the zodiac. You look at Aries. Aries is over here at 0 degrees in the zodiac. Virgo is right here, and it's making a 150-degree difference from Aries. So this is an uncomfortable aspect. It's called an inconjunct or a quincunx in astrology. And it means that it requires significant adjustment. It's not something that naturally flows. Aries and Virgo don't have much in common. There's a discomfort, but it's the signs over here that have to do the adjusting. So Virgo has control issues and Scorpio has control issues from this uncomfortable position from 0 degrees Aries. The Virgo control issues are focused on the micro. So all the details, getting all the details right. Virgo's sort of outlook in general of life is if there's like an old saying that's I think it says, if you watch the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. This can be both healthy and it can be both short-sighted. So we need to have a bigger picture perspective, but you may lose that during this progression. That being said, Virgo is excellent at perfecting details. So it's kind of true to an extent. Like if we look at our health and we take care of our health and fitness on a daily basis, a very Virgo thing to do, then our overall health will be taken care of. And also doing the work every day, that's Virgo's thing. So if you weren't really doing any work towards your passions or your career, and you became obsolete during your Leo progression or the end of it, or you were naturally coasting during your Leo progression, because that's what happens with Leo. It's like, I'm naturally the center of attention. I'm naturally talented. There's not much actual work that has to go into that. I'm just getting everything because I'm royalty. It's your royal era. Virgo can tend to over adjust and then wind up being physically ill because of all of the work that goes into sort of accommodating everyone else. It's like being overly flexible. Also, there's a tendency to over-analysis to the point that Virgo can actually come across as negative and critical. This is the progression to get organized though. So if you have any issues or any need for scheduling, budgeting, balancing, organizing. If we don't stay organized during this progression, then what happens is, again, we end up with physical, stress-related issues, and a lot of them are going to be digestive. You also want to make sure you are being of service actively, not in theory, but it's better to choose a healthy way and make that a daily practice rather than allow this neurosis to turn Virgo into that ultra critical person in everyone's life who's constantly pointing out their flaws, also giving advice to people that aren't asking for it. And we have to make sure we're not doing so much for other people during this progression that we are depleting ourselves. So I'm going to go over how this applies to different signs as they go into it. So if you are a Leo, and again, you're born late in the season of Leo, the last 10 days, you'll go into this in your early days. So when you're in elementary school, and something you might experience pretty early on is that you may have felt like the star of the family and the center of attention. You're naturally talented in a lot of things, especially when it comes to performance, sports, the arts, anything athletic. You're going to have to start working. So when you go into your progression in Virgo, if you go in elementary school, this can be good because you learn early on you're going to have to put in the work and the effort. If you're born in the middle of the season, you'll go in somewhere in middle school or high school. And so you might, maybe you were a big fish in a small pond in your elementary school, and then you go into middle or high school and you realize that it's a much bigger institution, you're a nobody, and now you've got to show who you are. Leos tend to be popular when they're in school. So when you went into your Virgo progression, you may feel like that popularity declines a bit. If you were born early in the Leo season, you won't go into your Virgo progression until your 20s. So at this point, you might be experiencing that harsh, cold reality of the real world. And now you have to get down to work, and adulthood can just really hit one of the Leos going into this progression in their 20s kind of hard. If you go in your mid to late 20s, you might find that you racked up a bunch of debt, or you thought you would do something like be a professional athlete or be an influencer, and it's just not working. And now you have to get a job that actually pays the bills. So there's some sort of humbling that goes on in your 20s like that. If you're a Cancer, you're going to go into this progression either in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. So in your middle life. Just a heads up as well, this is also a sign that kind of mimics the same issues in the body that Cancer can have when it comes to stomach and intestines. So this is where you're going to see career changes for people who enter into the Virgo progression. You might change a career within your field into something more nurturing, more of service. Cancers love to do anything with food, with babies, anything domestic. And Virgo is, I have to learn a new skill energy. Virgo is good with a ton of different type of careers because Virgo is adaptable, of service, learns new skills, and is highly organized. So there's not a lot of careers that Virgo won't do well in. This is not a position or a sign that's naturally leadership. It's a mutable sign, not a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are the natural leadership signs. So some of the careers that are great for Virgo to be in are anything in service, anything in hospitality, anything in nursing and healthcare in general, anything in accounting and finance, like bookkeeping, anything that has to do with planning and organizing. Virgos are natural students, so they're great teachers because they're constantly learning and improving their skill set, and they're very detail oriented and very helpful. Anything having to do with fitness, so like a personal trainer. Getting back to Cancer in general, when you're going through this progression, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, this is a really good time for doing estate planning, but also you will be able to change bad habits. So for example, if you have a lot of debt because you were overly indulgent and extravagant during your Leo progression, this is the time to get yourself out of debt and make sure that you stay out of debt. If you're investing, you need to learn more about how investments work so that you can be more hands-on or more likely to take on some sort of secondary job after retirement. So whether that's like a part-time position or instructing people on what your area of expertise was, or if you're just now taking on a new role like caretaking for someone. Now, if you're a Gemini and you go into this progression, you are later in life. You're not going to go in until your golden years and the earliest onset. So if you were born late in the Gemini season, you got to go all the way through your Leo progression of 30 years, and then your Cancer progression, then your Leo progression, then you'll get to this progression. So if you were born late in the season, you'll go in your 60s. Mid-season, you'll go in your 70s, and if you were born early in the season, you won't make it until your 80s. So the nice thing about this progression is it's a double Mercury energy, because you are naturally ruled by Mercury and so is Virgo. So a lot of learning and information, either receiving it or giving it, and probably both, is going to be a huge part of your life, and you're likely to be retired. You might just have a career you never end, or you might have a secondary career. You might start like an instructional, like a YouTube channel or something, so you can instruct people. There will be a lot of teacher-student type of energy to this progression. It's also a good time to write a book if you've ever wanted to. Geminis love communication, sharing information. Virgo will give you the energy you need to be organized, to plan, and to be able to execute a little bit every day. This is also a great time to be learning, just like reading. This is like the energy, the double Mercury energy of just avidly wanting to learn and read books all the time. The last progression I want to talk about is with Suns and Taurus. Again, this is only people who are in the very end of Taurus, so in the last 10 days, and you make it to your 90s or beyond. So you're going to be in a Virgo progression, and this is where Earth comes back to Earth. The key to this is going to be routine. You have to have, Taurus needs a routine, but the thing that will keep you going is to have a routine that often includes caretaking for someone else, taking your medication every day, being very diligent about your hygiene. Like I said, if you're caretaking for somebody else, that's going to kind of be your go-to, like your motivation. Be very concerned about keeping your hands in your money. That is what Tauruses are all about. It's still going to be an important thing to you as to where maybe your will, like who's going to get your estate, how is it organized. Now, if you're going through a progression of your sun through the 6th house, regardless of what sign that it's in, you're going to be experiencing a focus on routines, schedules, and personal habits. The 6th house is the house of our daily life. So that includes everything we do every single day that leads up to a greater goal and how we are of service to other people. The 6th house also rules pets. So during this progression, pets might play a big role in your life. You might really rely on them for emotional support, or you might take care of animals in some way. Like you might actually have a career that goes into caretaking for animals, or something to do with pets like dogs and cats and domesticated animals. This is a time to work on any personal habits that are not good. So if you have any personal habits like, I don't know, smoking, vaping, do something on a daily basis, or don't do something, like maybe you don't exercise on a regular basis. Now is the time that all of that's going to have to be addressed. The 6th house represents the work-life connection. So it's not only the actual daily work we have to do, but how it affects our health. So any stress-related symptoms are going to be coming to the forefront to be addressed during this time. So you might have to reassess how your daily schedule affects your health. So that's Progress Sun in Virgo and or the 6th house. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you have been going through this progression, either one, please let us know in the comments how it's going for you and what your personal experience with it has been. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.